chronic disease, whether it's cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, heart disease, is caused by two things and two things only. Number one, your body's missing something that it needs, or number two, it's exposed to something that it doesn't need. That's what the science is telling us now, with over 170,000 scientific publications in the literature. We've learned a lot. So what we know is that about every decade, and this starts sometimes in our late teens, early 20s, that we lose about 10 to 12% of our endothelial function per decade. So by the time we're 40 or 50 years old, we only have about 50% of the nitric oxide we had when we were younger. And this is on a, kind of a, when you take a broad population and you don't select for the healthy versus the unhealthy. We also know that you can now get nitric oxide activity from the foods we eat, plant-based vegetarian diets, beets, kale, arugula. And so most Americans, part of the standard American diet or the SAD diet, doesn't include those green leafy vegetables. So we're deficient from our diet. We're deficient due to endothelial dysfunction. And when you can't make nitric oxide, disease sets in. And I think that explains the epidemic of type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, the number one killer of men and women worldwide. 2 out of 3 Americans have an unsafe elevation in blood pressure. And yet most of them are medicated to no avail.
Amazing. So we've discovered basically that, so many chronic diseases have a component of altered vascular or alternate blood flow to them, leading for them to get worse over time, diabetes, heart attacks, and things like that. And over time, we lose nitric oxide. But you're also maybe mentioning now that there are things that we are doing lifestyle-wise from a diet perspective that is making us, have low nitric oxide as well. Are there additional lifestyle components or lifestyle things that people might be doing that they are unaware of that are decreasing nitric oxide in their body?
That's a very good point. And so I tell people all the time, you have to do 2 things. Number one, you have to recognize what you're doing that's disrupting the natural nitric oxide production. And then number 2, you have to start doing the things that have been clinically and scientifically proven to enhance or restore nitric oxide production. So if we address the first, we're finding that people who use mouthwash shut down about 50% of their nitric oxide production. 200 million Americans wake up every morning and use mouthwash at least once a day. Some people are using it 2 and 3 times a day. Over time, we're seeing, and we published a number of papers on this, you use mouthwash, blood pressure goes up. And this explains resistant hypertension. Ken, as you know, you can put people on antihypertensive medications and their blood pressure isn't normalized because it's the wrong target. It's not a renin-angiotensin problem. It's not a calcium dysregulation. It's not a fluid imbalance. It's an oral dysbiosis.
Right. So what you were saying to people, so that I could explain to people these medical terms, you're basically suggesting the mouthwash used to kind of create, bacteria or take out some bacteria that are useful for the production of nitric oxide.
That's right. So the microbiome is this living organism within us and on us. And so they're good, but there's good players, there's bad players. And when you use an antiseptic mouthwash, it indiscriminately kills all the bacteria. And then what happens is you decrease the diversity, you decrease the number and the variability of these bacteria, and you lose the ability to generate nitric oxide. So look, 200 million Americans use mouthwash. 200 million Americans have an unsafe elevation in blood pressure. Coincidence? I think not.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you're finding this podcast to be valuable, if you're learning a lot, please share it with your friends and family members. And please consider leaving a 5-star review at ratethispodcast.com/ThriveState. That review is really going to help the show grow. And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of my book, Thrive State, at thrivestatebook.com. I would love to connect with you on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and LinkedIn at KienVu MD. Remember, you are your best medicine.